my channel. Today we're going to be looking at balancing of accounts. It's a troublesome topic and most students have issues with this topic. So I hope at the end of this video we'll have a better understanding. Feel free to pause and watch and rewind and watch again until you understand. So we have three objectives for this lesson. The first objective, at the end of this lesson, you should be able to tell me virtually what is meant by the term balancing of accounts. The second objective, you should be able to distinguish between a debit balance and a credit balance. And the final objective, you're going to be able to balance off accounts at the end of a period and bring the balance down to the next period. Here's a scenario. Read it for you. I'm so sad. All my money is done. I had so much money this morning. So what happened to your money? I got $500 from my mom for the week. I bought 2 Pepsi for $200 and 2 Bolas for $250. So if you receive $500 and you spent $200, then $250, that means you have spent $450. So if you subtract what you spent from what you received, you should have $50 balance. Right? You must always balance off your accounts so you can know how much money you either have left or owe. Did you enjoy the scenario? Did you learn anything from this scenario? It's basically telling you why you need to balance off so you can have an idea of how much money is in a particular account, either as an asset or a liability. Okay, so balancing off simply means finding the difference, which is subtracting, finding the difference between the total of the debit entries and the total of the credit entries in a particular account. Now, to do this, you must know what are debit entries and what are credit entries. Now, your debit entries are written where? On the debit side of the account. Awesome. And your credit entries are on the credit side of the account. The difference, when you subtract the credit entries from the debit entries, what you get is called a balance. And I'm going to refresh you, for those of you who forgot how to do T accounts and which side is your debit side and which side is your credit. Look at this T account right here. If you look, you'll see an orange looking T in the middle. That's why it's called a T account, because it separates the account into two. So you have a debit side and you have a credit side. On the left side of the account, you see the DEBIT or the DR in bracket, it's the debit side. Above that, you see in, which means this side over here records whatever is going into the account. The credit side, which is the right side of the account, records whatever is going out of the account. At the top of the account, you will see what? The name on the account. So everything written on the debit side, which is the left side, would be your debit entries, and whatever is on the credit side would be your credit entries. Now the thing says you have to subtract your credit entries from your debit entries, and whatever you get is called a balance. Let me give you an example. Let us say the debit side had a sum of $1,000, right? And the credit side had a sum of $200, right? If you subtract the 200 from the 1,000, you would get a balance of $800. And what you would have left would be called your balance. And later on we'll look into what is balance carried down and what is balance brought down. But for right now, we want to focus on just what is the balance. So after you subtract your credit entries from your debit entries or vice versa, what you have left is your balance. Now, the balance is entered on the side of the account that has the least amount of money. So in my example earlier, remember one side had 1,000? The other had 200. So now you're going to put the balance on which side? Awesome. The side with the $200 because that had the least amount of money. Both sides of the account should then be total. This should now agree because the balance has been inserted. So on the debit side was 1,000, on the credit side was 200. And when you subtract the 200 from the 1,000, you got an 800 and you put it where? On the smaller side. So that smaller side now has two figures, 800 and 200. So the totals now would be the same, as in 1,000 on the debit side and now 1,000 on the credit side. Sometimes an account simply needs closing off, and this is when both the debit and the credit entries adds up to exactly the same amount. So there is no balance. And we're going to look at these examples later. Any questions? I'm sure you understand. Let's continue. Okay, let's look at a few examples. Accounts for debtors, where debtors have paid their accounts. Before we go any further, who is a debtor? Because it says accounts for debtors. Now, debtors are persons who owe us. So that money will come into us eventually, and so that will form a part of our assets. It belongs to us. So where debtors have paid their accounts, it means that there is no balance on the account. K-Morgan account. On the left side, we see the DR sign, which is showing us it's our debit side. And on the right-hand side, we see the CR, which is showing us it's our credit side. The debit side records what? Anything coming what? Into the account. And the credit side shows whatever is going out of the account. So let's start at the top. August 1 on the debit side. August 1, sales 144. This means that on August 1, we sold goods on credit to K-Morgan. And that's why it's on the debit side of K-Morgan's account, because K-Morgan received the goods from us. August 19, sales 300. Again, we are selling goods to K-Morgan, $300. And it's going, the sales is written on the debit side of K-Morgan's account because he got the goods from us. Move on. August 22, bank 144. What does this mean? It means that on August 22, K-Morgan paid us 144 by check, and that's why we have the bank account right here. So the money is coming out of K-Morgan's account because he is paying us. Remember, the debit side requires whatever is going in, the credit side, whatever is going out. So if you realize the bank is on the outside of K-Morgan's account, which means he's paying us. It's coming out of his account. On August 28th, bank 300. So K-Morgan is also paying us again $300 by check, and it's coming out of his account. If you realize, he took goods on August 1 and August 19, but guess what? He paid for the two of them. He paid 144 on August 22 and 300 on August 28, right? So let us look now how we balance off this particular account where there is no balance left, where the person doesn't owe us anything. First thing you do, you need to draw two single lines under the final figure to show that you are going to add, right? And the lines must be on the same level. So under each of the $300, there's a line. The next thing you do is add up. So 300 plus 144 equal 444. On the debit side. On the credit side, 300 plus 144 equals 444. So we're going to put down our 444. It's not done right here. There's one more step. The other step is to add a double line under the 444 to show that we have balance off the account. So here we go. So the double line is there to show that we have balanced off the account and there is no balance on the account. So that this is where debtors have paid their accounts. Here's another one. In this case, we are still looking at debtors who have paid their accounts. But here with Sealy, everything was paid at once instead of in installments as in K. Morgan's account. So here, we have the debit side, we have the credit side, we have the name on the account, which is Sealy, we have the year 2007 and $ on both sides of the account. Now, August 11, sales 177. What does that mean? Right, it means that on August 11, we sold goods to Sealy 177 on credit, goods on credit, 177. August 19, sales 203. This means that on August 19, we sold goods on credit to Sealy $203. And on August 22, sales 100, which means on August 22, we sold goods to Sealy costing $100. I really hope you're understanding. Okay, you feel free to pause, rewind, and try to get this as best as you can. No, so this account is showing us that on 3 different occasions, Sealy took goods from us on credit. Now, at the end of the month, August 30, it says bank 480. Do you know what this means? I'm sure you do. It means that on August 30, Sealy paid us by what? By check. And that's why we have the bank account, 480. So to balance off this account, the first thing we need to do is total both sides of the account. So we're going to add on the debit side 177, 203, and 104. But we need to put 2 single lines on each side of the account to show that we are doing an addition. So there you go. So the 2 single lines are there to show that we're going to be adding both sides of the account. And every time you draw lines on your T account, they must be on the same level. Whether it's a single line or a double line, must be on the same level. You cannot have one at the top and one at the bottom. They must all be on the same level. Don't ever forget this. Added $177, $203, and $100, and we get $480. Are we finished? I know you would have picked it up. So no, we have to put our double line to show that we have completed balancing of the account. So there you go. So in this account, there is no balance because whatever the person took on credit, they paid the entire amount at the end of the month. Any questions? Feel free to comment below if you have anything you want to know or inbox me. All right, so we have a situation where debtors still owe for goods, right? In the previous examples, the debtors have paid off all their accounts at the end of the month. Now, in this instance, we have some debtors who don't have the money to pay everything right away, and so they're going to owe some amount of money. So where debtors still owe for goods, there are 5 steps to take when balancing off the accounts. Let's go. Step 1. Step 1, add up both sides of the account. So here you go. Let's look at Sealy account. 2000 debit side. So again, we have the debit side, DR, the credit side, CR, debit side records whatever is going in the account, and the credit side, whatever is going out of the account. Okay. August 1, sales 158. We know that means what? That on August 1, we sold goods to Sealy for 158. And it's going on the debit side because Sealy is getting that goods. August 15, sales 206, which means what? Awesome. We're selling goods to Sealy on credit for $206. August 30, sales 118. We are selling goods costing $180 to Sealy. Okay, on August 28th, bank 158. What does that mean? On August 28th, Sealy paid us 158 by check. Awesome. What's the first step again? we're going to be totaling both sides of the account. But if you look on the credit side, there's only one entry. On the debit side, we have 3 entries. So we'll go ahead and add the debit side. So 158, 206, and 118. But first, we need to draw what? Our single lines to show that we are going to be adding. And the single lines must be what? On the same level. There you go. So now 158, 206, 118 equals. Now, when you're doing this account, you would not write anything permanent at this stage. You would get a pencil and probably scratch the number down at the top somewhere so you don't forget it. So this number is 482. I'm going to show you above. So the debit side is 482. The credit side is what? 158. What do we do next? We subtract the 158 smaller side from the bigger side, which is 482, and we have what? 324. Now this 324 is our balance, and we're going to be calling it balance carried down. So August 31, balance carried down, 324. There you go. Do we understand? So let us recap here. We're balancing off this account for CLE where he still owes us some money. So we sold goods to him August 1, 158, August 15, 206, August 30, 118. And he paid us 158 on August 28. What we did was draw our single line to show that we're going to be totaling the account. So we add 158, 206, 118 on the debit side. We use our pencil and wrote that figure down on the top of the account so we can remember that number because we're going to be using it again. On the credit side, you have bank 158. So the rule says you're going to subtract your smaller side from your bigger side, or the side with the least amount from the side with the most amount. So here we're going to subtract 158 from the 482. We end up with 324. This 324 has a name because everything on the account must have a name beside it. So the name for this 324 right here is balance carried down, abbreviated by balance CD. And the balance CD is always at the end of the month, and that's why we have August 31. That's a mouthful, but I'm sure you'll get it. If you don't get it, pause, rewind, watch again. Let's continue. So we have our 2 single lines. Next step in balancing the account says you are to enter the totals on level with each other. So here we go. So when we add the 158 and the new balance CD 324, we end up with a total of 482, and they must be on the same level beside each other. Not one up, one down, always. Your lines should be on the same level. Your totals at the bottom should be on the same level. What is next? Are we finished here? No, we're going to do our double line. So there you go. So are we finished now? And an important accounting principle is if you have a balance carried down, you must have a balance brought down. This is showing you that at the end of the month, CLE still owed us 324 on his account, right? But the world doesn't stop at the end of August. We have September coming, October. So we have to bring this balance down to September to show that he still owes us that money. And so we need to have a balance brought down. Here, last step, enter the balance. And by balance, we mean what was left after you subtracted your credit side from your debit side. So this balance is shown below the total on the opposite side. So look, balance carried down in this case is on the credit side. But the balance carried on can fall on any side depending on what type of account you're doing. If you're doing an account for debtors, it will be on the debit side. If you're doing accounts for assets, it will be on the debit side. But if you're doing accounts for capital and liability, it may fall on the credit side. Now, if you have a balance carried down, you must have a balance brought down at the beginning of the next month. And so you have September 1, balance brought down, 324 on the other side. So the same amount we use for the balance carried down, the same amount must be used for the balance brought down. The balance brought down must be on the opposite side of the balance carried down. So if your balance carried down falls on the right side, your balance BD must be on the left side. If your balance CD falls on the left side, your balance brought down must be on the right side. So you have to remember these important concepts. But always remember, if you have a balance carried down, you must have a balance brought down at the beginning of the next month. So this month here is August, so we're moving down into September. Let's do one more example to make sure you understand, and then we are going to stop right here for today. So here, accounts for creditors. Okay, creditors are persons who we owe. These are persons who we buy goods from. So here's an example of where we still owe suppliers for goods. So when you have creditors, we have suppliers, persons who supply us with goods. Now here we have E. Williams account, and again, debit side, credit side. Debit side records whatever is going in the account, credit side, whatever is going out of the account. Just remember that key concept. Okay, 2007, $, 2007, $, on both sides of the account. Always have your headings. Headings are very, very important. Okay, August 2, we are starting here on the credit side because we normally move in chronological order. And so we start from the lowest date to the highest date. So August 2 purchases 248. Now look at this carefully. It says accounts for creditors. That means we are buying goods from people. Okay. August 2 purchases is no longer sales because we're not selling goods anymore. We are purchasing goods this time around. And so August 2 purchases 248, which means that on August 2, we bought goods from E. Williams 248, and if you realize it's on the E. Williams credit side because the goods is coming out of his account to come to us. So on his credit side, we record the purchases. On August 18, purchases 116. Again, it says we are buying goods from E. Williams 116, and because it says from, realize it's coming out of E. Williams account, and hence it's on the credit side. Look here now, August 21 on the debit side, August 21, bank 108. What does that mean? It's on E. Williams debit side. Awesome. It means that on August 21, we paid E. Williams 108 by what? Cash or check? By check, because we have the bank signal right here. So it's on his debit side because the money is going into E. Williams bank account. So now we're going to balance off this particular account. On the credit side, we have 248 and 116, and on the debit side, we have 108. Who remembers what we do first? So we are going to total whatever is on the credit side because there is only one entry on the debit side. So 248 and plus 116 gives us 364. So this 364, we do not write it down permanently as yet. We are going to use our pencil and write it on the top of the account, which is 364. So when you finish, you can always erase it. This is just to remind you of what the total figure is. Okay, so your credit side is now 364. The debit side is 108. The rule says subtract your smaller side from your bigger side. So we're going to subtract the 108 from this 364 and record it where? Which side? Oh, you remember it on the smaller side. So, okay. And we have a balance now of 256. Are we complete? No. We now have to do what? Draw our two single lines to show that we're going to be totaling the account. And the two single lines must be on the same level. Okay, there we go. So now we're going to add up both sides of the account and we end up with 364. So both sides are now equal. Are we finished here? I know you would say that. No, we need to put what? Our double line to show that we have completed balancing and they must be on the same level. So the total must be on the same level, not one up and one down, and the double lines must be on the same level. Is this complete? No. So if we have a balance carried down, we must have a balance brought down at the beginning of the next month. And so this is August. And so our next month will be awesome, September, on the opposite side. The balance CD is on the debit side, and so our balance brought down must be on the opposite side, which is now the credit side. And there you go. September 1, balance brought down 256. And this has completed the accounts for creditors. Let us review. What does balancing off mean? Very good. Balancing off means we find the difference between our debit entries and our credit entries. It is recorded on the debit side of the account. Awesome. So the debit side records whatever is going into the account. What is recorded on the credit side of the account? The credit side records whatever is coming out or going out of the account. After you total both sides of the account, on which side do you put the balance? Not debit side, no. Not credit side, no. It goes on the smaller side. What is the name of the balance that goes above the total? Balance carried down. Awesome. What is the name of the balance that goes below the total? Yes, balance brought down. What date of the month do we have a balance carried down? At the end of the month. And what date of the month do we have a balance brought down? Awesome. At the beginning of the next month. What does a debit balance mean? A debit balance means that the balance brought down falls on the debit side of the account, which is good for us because that amount of money is due to us at the end of the month. That person still owes us that amount of money, so it's an asset for us. So whatever it falls on it, whenever the balance BD falls on the debit side, that's an asset for us. What does a credit balance mean? So a credit balance means that the balance brought down or the balance BD falls on the credit side of the account. And that means we have that debt to pay. It's a liability for us, so we still owe that amount of money from the business. I know your head must be spinning It's a lot of content, but I hope that I explained it adequately enough for you to fully grasp. And as I said, you can always pause, you can always go back and watch something that you didn't get. But it was good having you. It was good helping you to understand balancing of accounts. And I hope you like, you subscribe, and you share my videos. Bye.